My sister abandoned her 4-year-old son with me for a few hours, then texted from Vegas that she's never coming back. 6 months later, she had another baby that was immediately taken by CPS. I, 25F, still can't believe what happened over the past 2 weeks. Last Tuesday, my phone buzzed with a text from my older sister Rachel, 33F. She asked if I could watch my nephew Brian, 4M, for a few hours while she went to a job interview. I hesitated at first because Rachel and I had a major falling out about 5 months ago when she accused my husband Mike, 27M, of stealing money from her purse during a family dinner, something he absolutely did not do. Despite our strained relationship, I maintained contact with Brian because he's innocent in all this family drama. I agreed to watch him for the evening. When Rachel dropped Brian off, she seemed rushed. She handed me a small backpack with some of Brian's things and hurried out the door. Brian was excited to see me and Mike, showing us his new toy car and telling us about preschool. We had pizza for dinner and played board games. As the evening wore on, I expected Rachel to text about picking him up. Around 8 p.m., my phone buzzed. Rachel, interview went longer than expected and I have a second round tomorrow morning. Can Brian stay overnight? I'll pick him up before noon. Mike was annoyed but didn't say anything in front of Brian. We agreed since we both had the next day off anyway. We set Brian up in our guest room, read him a story, and tucked him in for the night. The next morning, we had breakfast together and waited for Rachel to arrive. Noon came and went. I texted Rachel at 12:30 p.m. Me, what time are you coming to get Brian? No response. I called her phone but it went straight to voicemail. By 3 p.m., I was concerned. Me, Rachel, please call me back. Brian is asking about you. Still nothing. Mike and I tried not to show our worry in front of Brian. We took him to the park to distract him and ourselves. When we got home around 5 p.m., I tried calling Rachel again. Nothing. This pattern continued into the evening. Brian asked about his mom at bedtime, and I told him she would come tomorrow. The second night passed without word from Rachel. The next morning, Friday, I had to call my office and tell them I couldn't come in. My boss was understanding but mentioned I should use my personal days. Mike went to work as he had an important meeting he couldn't miss. Brian and I spent the day doing crafts and watching cartoons. I kept checking my phone, hoping for a message from Rachel. Around 4 p.m., after nearly 48 hours of silence, my phone finally buzzed. Rachel, having a great time in Vegas with Brian. Won't be back for a while. Brian has clothes at home if you need more. He is under the mat. I read the message 3 times to make sure I understood it correctly. Vegas? Brian? I knew Rachel had started dating someone new after her divorce from her husband Mark, who wasn't Brian's biological father, but I had no idea she was planning a vacation. And who leaves their child for a while without any real plan. I called her immediately. No answer. I texted back. Me, what do you mean a while? When are you coming back? Brian needs his mother. Rachel, not sure yet. Brian has connections here. Might stay longer if things go well. I couldn't believe what I was reading. When Mike got home from work, I showed him the messages. He paced around our kitchen, his face turning redder by the second. Mike works as an accountant and values order, planning, and responsibility above all else. He was already frustrated from a stressful week at work, and this pushed him over the edge. He wanted to call the police immediately to report Rachel for child abandonment. I convinced him to wait, explaining that Rachel had done impulsive things before, though never to this extreme. Over the weekend, Brian started asking more frequently about his mom. I struggled with what to tell him. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that his mother went on vacation without him? I settled on telling him that his mom had to take an unexpected trip and asked us to take care of him. He seemed to accept this, though he still asked when she would return. By Monday, we needed more of Brian's belongings. Using Rachel's key, we went to her apartment. The place was a mess, unwashed dishes in the sink, clothes strewn about, and bills piled on the counter. We gathered clothes, Brian's favorite stuffed animal, and his toothbrush. While there, I found papers for Brian's preschool and his medical records, which I took just in case. That evening, I called Rachel's workplace, a local dental office where she worked as a receptionist. Her manager told me Rachel had texted Sunday night saying she wouldn't be returning to work. No notice, no explanation. Each day that passed with Brian in our care created more complications. I had to arrange for emergency time off work, and Mike had to adjust his schedule. We live in a 1-bedroom apartment that wasn't designed with a child in mind. Brian was sleeping on our pull-out couch, and his toys were scattered throughout our living room. On day 5 of Brian's stay, I finally got through to Rachel on the phone after multiple attempts. What followed was a conversation that changed everything. Rachel sounded different, her voice fluctuating between manic excitement and deep despair. She rambled about how tired she was of struggling as a single mother, how Brian had promised her a fresh start, and how she deserved happiness after everything she'd been through. When I asked directly when she was coming back for Brian, she went silent for a moment. Then she said the words that turned my world upside down. I'm not coming back, Emma. I can't do this anymore. Brian is better off without me. I couldn't process what she was saying. What do you mean you're not coming back? He's your son. You can't just abandon him. Rachel started crying then, saying her life had been nothing but disappointment and sacrifice. She mentioned our abusive parents, who we both cut contact with years ago, Brian's absent biological father who disappeared before he was born, her failed marriage to Mark, and how she never got to live the life she wanted. Brian says we can start over in California, she said. No baggage, no responsibilities. I need this, Emma. I've never had anything for myself. I tried reasoning with her, reminding her of her responsibilities, but she wouldn't listen. The call ended with her saying she was turning off her phone and that I shouldn't try to find her. That night, after Brian went to sleep, Mike and I sat at our kitchen table trying to figure out what to do. We hadn't planned on having children for at least 4 more years. We had just started enjoying financial stability after paying off our student loans. Our apartment was too small for 3 people. My job as a marketing coordinator demanded long hours, and Mike was up for a promotion that would require even more of his time. But beyond the practical concerns, there was a deeper issue. Mike had never wanted to be around Rachel since the money accusation incident. Rachel had a history of making false accusations against family members. When Brian was 2, she accused our uncle of trying to molest him during a family gathering, something that was quickly disproven when several family members confirmed our uncle was never alone with Brian. Because of this history, Mike refused to be alone with Brian, fearing Rachel might someday make similar accusations against him. This meant I couldn't leave Mike alone with Brian, not even for an hour while I ran to the store. The logistics of this arrangement were already proving difficult after just a few days. Still, we loved Brian. He was innocent in all this, and the thought of him ending up in foster care broke my heart. I had seen firsthand how damaging the system could be through my college roommate who grew up in foster care. The story she told still haunted me. For days, we lived in this strange limbo, temporary guardians to a child whose mother had vanished. I tried contacting Rachel through every possible channel, but she had gone completely dark. Her social media accounts were deleted, and her phone went straight to voicemail. We consulted a lawyer friend who explained our options. We could report Rachel for abandonment and seek temporary custody through the courts. We could try to locate other family members who might take Brian. Or we could do nothing and continue caring for him informally, which the lawyer strongly advised against. Our family network was limited. My parents were not an option due to their history of abuse. Rachel and I had no other siblings. Our extended family had largely distanced themselves from Rachel over the years due to her erratic behavior and false accusations. Brian's biological father had never been in the picture. Rachel had a brief relationship with him and he disappeared when she told him she was pregnant. Mark, Rachel's soon-to-be ex-husband, had been clear during their divorce proceedings that he had no interest in maintaining a relationship with Brian, though he had been in Brian's life from ages 1 to 3. As the days passed, the reality of our situation became clearer. We were now responsible for a child who needed stability, love, and long-term care. A child who wasn't ours, who we hadn't planned for, and whose presence was already straining our marriage and finances. Mike and I both come from dysfunctional families. We met in college and bonded over our shared determination to build stable, drama-free lives. We worked hard to create a peaceful home environment and financial security. Now, because of my sister's actions, that stability was threatened. By the end of the first week with Brian, we had spent over $300 on new clothes, toys, and food for him. I had missed 4 days of work, and Mike was struggling to focus on his upcoming promotion evaluation. Brian was asking more questions about his mother, and I was running out of gentle explanations. That weekend, our cousin Natalie, 34F, called to check in. She had heard through family gossip that Brian was staying with us. When I explained the situation, she was shocked but not entirely surprised given Rachel's history. What Natalie said next gave me the first glimmer of hope in days. Tom and I have been wanting another child, she said, referring to her husband, 36M. We've been talking about adoption for a while now. If you need help with Brian long term, we might be able to take him. Natalie and Tom lived in a suburban house about 2 hours away. They had a stable marriage, good jobs. Tom was an engineer, Natalie a stay-at-home mom, and a 2-year-old son. Natalie had previously looked into fostering and had completed some of the required courses before she became pregnant with their son. This conversation opened up a new possibility, one that would provide Brian with a stable home environment but still keep him within the family. I promised Natalie I would talk to Mike and get back to her. When I shared Natalie's offer with Mike, I could see the relief wash over his face. He suggested we take the weekend to think about it, but I could tell his mind was already made up. So was mine, if I was being honest with myself. The question now was, what was the right thing to do for Brian? And how would we navigate the legal process to make it happen? Update 1. 3 weeks have passed since my last post. So much has happened that I don't even know where to begin. After our conversation with Natalie and Tom about potentially taking Brian, Mike and I spent the whole weekend discussing our options. We made lists of pros and cons, calculated budgets, and even looked at larger apartments in our area. No matter how we approached it, the conclusion was the same. We weren't prepared to become instant parents to a 4-year-old, especially under these circumstances. The Monday after our decision, I called Child Protective Services, CPS, to report Rachel's abandonment of Brian. The intake worker asked detailed questions about the situation, and I provided all the information I had, including the text messages and the date Rachel left. They scheduled a home visit for the following day. 2 caseworkers came to our apartment and interviewed us separately. They observed Brian, who was watching cartoons in the living room, and took notes on our living situation. They explained that typically, their goal is family reunification, but given Rachel's explicit statement that she wasn't coming back, they would look into temporary custody arrangements while they investigated. The caseworkers asked if we were interested in becoming Brian's kinship caregivers. I explained that while we loved Brian, we weren't in a position to provide long-term care. I then mentioned Natalie and Tom's offer. The caseworkers took their information and said they would be in touch with them. That evening, my phone exploded with notifications. Rachel had somehow found out about the CPS report, likely from one of our extended family members who still had contact with her. She sent a barrage of texts. "How dare you call CPS on me? I trusted you to watch him for a while. I'm going through a hard time and this is how you repay me? I'll make you regret this." I didn't respond to any of her messages, following the advice of the CPS workers who warned me that engaging might escalate the situation. The next day, I received a call from the police department in Las Vegas. An officer explained that they had responded to a disturbance call at a hotel where Rachel was staying. According to the officer, Rachel had threatened self-harm after learning about the CPS investigation. She was being taken to a local hospital for psychiatric evaluation. The officer asked if I knew Brian, Rachel's boyfriend. I said I had never met him and only knew his name. The officer informed me that Brian had left the hotel before police arrived and they were trying to locate him as a potential witness. The news of Rachel's hospitalization hit me hard. Despite everything, she was still my sister. I contacted the hospital but was told they couldn't provide information due to privacy laws. All they could confirm was that she was there and receiving treatment. 2 days later, while at work, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Rachel, calling from the hospital. Her voice was flat, almost emotionless, likely due to medication. What she said next chilled me to the bone. She threatened to harm my pets, to call my employer with false accusations, and to make sure Mike and I paid for betraying her. I recorded part of the call and immediately reported it to both the hospital staff and the CPS caseworker handling Brian's case. The CPS caseworker explained that Rachel's threats, combined with her psychiatric hold, strengthened the case for emergency custody placement. They expedited the background checks on Natalie and Tom and arranged for a home study. Meanwhile, Brian was becoming increasingly confused about the situation. He had nightmares and asked for his mom constantly. I tried to explain things in age-appropriate ways, telling him that his mom was sick and needed help, and that he would be staying with us for a while longer, and then probably with cousin Natalie and her family. The emotional toll was immense. I found myself crying in the shower so Brian wouldn't see. Mike was working late to make up for time lost due to our new responsibilities, and the strain was showing on both of us. We had our first major argument since Brian arrived, a heated discussion about finances that ended with Mike sleeping on the couch. A week after Rachel's hospitalization, she was released. I learned this from Mark, her soon-to-be ex-husband, who called to tell me Rachel had shown up at his apartment. According to Mark, she was distraught and had nowhere else to go, so he let her stay. He asked what had happened with Brian. I gave him a brief explanation and suggested he encourage Rachel to cooperate with CPS for Brian's sake. Mark sounded exhausted. He explained that while he cared about Rachel's well-being, he couldn't be involved in her drama anymore. He had already filed the final divorce papers and was waiting for them to be processed. He did mention that Rachel was supposed to be taking medication and attending outpatient therapy sessions, but he wasn't sure if she was following through. Around the same time, Natalie and Tom's home study was completed and approved. CPS determined they would be appropriate kinship caregivers for Brian. They scheduled a transition meeting where all parties, Mike and I, Natalie and Tom, the CPS workers, and Brian, would meet to discuss the next steps. The meeting was held at the CPS office. Brian was taken to a playroom with a child specialist while the adults talked. The plan was for Brian to spend an overnight visit with Natalie and Tom that weekend, followed by a full week visit, and then permanent placement if all went well. I felt a complex mix of emotions during that meeting. Relief that Brian would have a stable home with family who wanted him. Guilt that we weren't taking him ourselves. Worry about how he would adjust to yet another change. Anger at Rachel for putting all of us in this position. The first overnight visit went surprisingly well. Brian knew Natalie from previous family gatherings and quickly bonded with her son. When we picked him up the next day, he was excited to tell us about the playground in their backyard and the pancakes Tom had made for breakfast. As we were preparing for the week-long visit, CPS called with troubling news. Rachel had found out about the placement plan with Natalie and Tom and had shown up at their house, demanding to see Brian. Thankfully, Brian wasn't there at the time. Tom had asked her to leave, and when she refused, he called the police. By the time officers arrived, Rachel had left. This incident led to an emergency hearing where the judge granted temporary custody to Natalie and Tom with an order of protection that prevented Rachel from approaching their home. The CPS worker explained that if Rachel wanted visitation, she would need to engage with services and petition the court. The day we drove Brian to Natalie and Tom's house for his extended stay, I couldn't stop the tears. Brian was confused by my reaction and asked why I was sad. I told him I would miss him but was happy he was going to have fun with his cousin. I promised to call him every day and visit soon. The 2-hour drive back home was silent. Mike and I both felt the weight of what had happened. Our once-ordered life had been turned upside down, and now we were left to pick up the pieces. As we entered our apartment, the sight of Brian's toy car on the coffee table nearly broke me. That night, Rachel called again. She spoke in a low, controlled voice that was somehow more frightening than her previous outbursts. She said she knew where I worked, where Mike worked, and that she would make us sorry for stealing her son. I hung up and called the police to report the threats. The officer who took my statement was sympathetic but explained there wasn't much they could do unless Rachel actually attempted to harm us. They advised us to document any contact from her and to consider our own restraining order. The next day, my boss called me into her office. Someone had sent an email to the entire company claiming I had stolen money from clients. The email came from an anonymous address but included details only Rachel would know. IT was able to trace the email to a public library computer in our city, confirming Rachel was back in town. Mike's workplace received a similar message. Fortunately, both our employers were understanding once we explained the situation. My boss even offered to give me flexible hours if I needed to deal with legal matters related to the case. A week after Brian went to stay with Natalie and Tom, we had our first video call with him. He seemed happy, showing us his new room and the toys he played with. Natalie reported that he had some difficult moments, especially at bedtime when he asked for his mom, but overall he was adjusting well. Rachel's behavior became increasingly erratic. She alternated between threatening messages and pleading ones, begging me to help her get Brian back. She claimed she had made a mistake, that Brian had manipulated her, and that she was ready to be a mother again. I forwarded all messages to CPS and the police but didn't respond to her directly. When I last spoke with a CPS caseworker, she explained that Rachel would need to complete a series of requirements before reunification would be considered: stable housing, steady employment, parenting classes, regular therapy, and clean drug tests. So far, Rachel had made no effort to meet these requirements. Instead, Rachel focused her energy on harassing us. She created fake social media profiles to spread rumors about Mike and me. She left dozens of voicemails ranging from tearful apologies to vicious threats. The police took reports but said they couldn't arrest her unless she made specific death threats or attempted to act on her general threats. Last weekend, we discovered someone had slashed the tires on Mike's car. We couldn't prove it was Rachel, but the timing, right after we blocked her newest phone number, was suspicious. We installed security cameras around our apartment and began documenting every unusual incident. Throughout all this chaos, Mike and I tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. We went back to work, continued our weekly dinner dates, and even attended a concert we had tickets for months ago. But the shadow of recent events hung over everything. Yesterday marked 3 weeks since Rachel first left Brian with us. 3 weeks that changed the course of multiple lives. 3 weeks that tested our marriage, our principles, and our limits. I still don't know if we made the right decisions, but I believe Brian is in a good place now. And that has to be enough. Update 2. It's been 2 months since Brian went to live with Natalie and Tom, and much has changed in everyone's lives. Brian has settled into a routine with Natalie and Tom. He started attending a preschool near their home and has made friends with neighbors' children. According to Natalie, he still asks about his mom occasionally, but less frequently than before. They've established a good system for handling these questions, acknowledging his feelings while keeping explanations age-appropriate. Mike and I have visited Brian 3 times. Each visit gets easier as he becomes more comfortable in his new home. During our last visit, he proudly showed us his new bedroom, completely decorated with dinosaur-themed items. He seems happy, which brings us immense relief. The legal situation has progressed as well. The court granted Natalie and Tom temporary guardianship of Brian for 6 months, after which they can apply for permanent guardianship if circumstances haven't changed. Rachel was given the opportunity to contest this arrangement but failed to appear at the hearing. Speaking of Rachel, her behavior has been unpredictable. After her initial barrage of threats and harassment, she went quiet for about 3 weeks. Then she resurfaced with a seemingly different attitude. I received an email from her claiming she had gotten help and was working on meeting the requirements set by CPS. She asked to meet with me to discuss Brian's future. Against Mike's advice, I agreed to meet her in a public coffee shop. Rachel looked different when I saw her, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes. She was living with Mark again, though they were still proceeding with their divorce. According to her, Brian had taken most of her money and disappeared after she was hospitalized in Las Vegas. During our meeting, Rachel vacillated between accepting responsibility and blaming others for her situation. One moment she would admit she made a terrible mistake leaving Brian, the next she would blame me for overreacting by calling CPS. She insisted she was taking her medication and seeing a therapist twice a week, though I had no way to verify this. The most concerning part of our conversation came when she asked about Brian's current location. I had deliberately avoided telling her exactly where Natalie and Tom lived, giving only the general area. When I deflected her questions, her demeanor changed noticeably. Her eyes hardened and she muttered something about finding out herself. I reported this conversation to both the CPS caseworker and the police officer handling our harassment complaints. They advised continuing to limit information shared with Rachel and to maintain the safety measures we had implemented. A week after our coffee shop meeting, Natalie called in a panic. Someone had tried to pick Brian up from preschool claiming to be his mother. Thankfully, the school had strict protocols and knew about the custody situation. They refused to release Brian and called Natalie immediately. By the time Natalie arrived, the woman, presumably Rachel, had left. The school filed a police report and enhanced their security procedures. This incident led to another court hearing where the judge issued a stronger protective order prohibiting Rachel from coming within 500 feet of Brian, Natalie and Tom's home, or Brian's preschool. The judge also ordered a mental health evaluation for Rachel before any visitation would be considered. Rachel's response to these developments was to escalate her harassment of us. She created multiple fake email accounts to bypass our blocks. She spread rumors in our apartment complex that we were under investigation for child abuse. She even contacted some of my clients with false claims about my work ethics. Each incident was reported and documented, but individually they weren't enough for serious legal consequences. The stress began affecting Mike's health. He developed insomnia and started having panic attacks. His doctor prescribed anti-anxiety medication and suggested therapy. His performance at work suffered, and the promotion he had been working toward was given to someone else. Our marriage faced challenges too. We argued more frequently, usually about small things that wouldn't normally bother us. The arguments often circled back to the same question: had we done the right thing? Should we have tried harder to keep Brian with us? I found myself questioning our decision many times, especially after video calls with Brian when he seemed so happy and innocent. Mike remained confident we had made the right choice, particularly after Rachel's escalating behavior confirmed his fears about her instability. Last month brought another complication. Mark called to inform me that Rachel was pregnant. The father was Brian, the boyfriend from Las Vegas. Rachel had only discovered the pregnancy after returning home. Mark was telling me because he was concerned about Rachel's mental state and her ability to care for another child. This news hit me hard. Rachel was barely coping with her current situation, yet she was now facing another major life change. I wondered how this would affect her relationship with Brian and any potential reunification plans. When I shared this news with the CPS caseworker, she explained that this development would likely extend the timeline for any potential return of Brian to Rachel's care. The system would need to assess her ability to care for both Brian and a newborn before considering reunification. Meanwhile, Natalie and Tom started the process to become licensed foster parents, which would provide them with additional support services for Brian. They enrolled in required training classes and worked closely with their caseworker to ensure they met all requirements. Brian continued to thrive in their care. His preschool teacher reported that his behavior had improved significantly since his arrival. The nightmares that plagued him during his first weeks with them had become less frequent. He was building a strong bond with their son, who looked up to Brian as a big brother. 2 weeks ago, we received a certified letter from a lawyer representing Rachel. The letter claimed that we had manipulated the situation to steal Brian from her and threatened legal action if we didn't help her regain custody. We forwarded the letter to our own lawyer, who assured us that Rachel's claims had no legal merit given the documented abandonment. Despite the ongoing drama with Rachel, Mike and I have been working to rebuild our sense of normalcy. We started seeing a marriage counselor to help us process the events of the past months and strengthen our communication. We both agree that while the situation was incredibly difficult, facing it together ultimately brought us closer. We also decided to move forward with plans we had put on hold. We're saving for a house now, with the goal of purchasing something next year. The whole experience made us realize how unprepared we were for emergencies, and we want to create more stability in our lives. Last weekend, we attended a small birthday party for Brian at Natalie and Tom's house. Seeing him blow out the candles on his dinosaur cake, surrounded by his new friends and family, I felt a moment of peace. No matter how complicated and painful the journey had been, Brian was safe and loved. That knowledge helps me sleep at night. Update 3. 6 months have passed since my last update, and I'm writing this final post to close this chapter of our lives. Brian has now been living with Natalie and Tom for 8 months. Last month, they were granted permanent guardianship of Brian. Rachel had multiple opportunities to contest the arrangement but failed to follow through with the court's requirements. She missed several hearings and didn't complete any of the steps outlined in the reunification plan. The transition to permanent guardianship means Brian now has stability and legal protection. Natalie and Tom have authority to make all decisions regarding his education, healthcare, and daily life. The court did leave open the possibility of revisiting visitation for Rachel in the future, contingent on her demonstrating significant improvement in her mental health and lifestyle. Brian just turned 5 and started kindergarten. According to Natalie, he's thriving academically and socially. He still mentions his mom occasionally, but the questions have become less frequent. Natalie and Tom have worked with a child psychologist to develop age-appropriate explanations for Brian's situation, emphasizing that he is loved and that his mother's absence isn't his fault. Mike and I visit Brian about once a month. The 2-hour drive is worth it to maintain our relationship with him. We've established ourselves as the fun aunt and uncle who bring presents, take him to amusement parks, and video chat weekly to hear about his adventures. He seems comfortable with this arrangement and always greets us with enthusiasm. As for Rachel, her situation has continued to deteriorate. She gave birth to a daughter 3 months ago. CPS was notified of the birth due to Rachel's open case with Brian. The baby was temporarily placed in foster care when tests showed she was born with substances in her system. Mark called to tell me this news, as he was still in limited contact with Rachel. According to Mark, Rachel blamed everyone but herself for her circumstances. She refused to comply with drug testing or mental health treatment. The last Mark heard, she was living with a new boyfriend and had essentially abandoned efforts to regain custody of either child. This news was devastating but not surprising. Rachel's pattern of behavior has been consistent throughout her adult life, periods of stability followed by impulsive decisions and abandonment of responsibilities. The difference now is that 2 innocent children are directly affected by her choices. The harassment against Mike and me has finally stopped. 4 months ago, Rachel was arrested for violating the restraining order when she showed up at my workplace. She spent 2 weeks in jail and was ordered to undergo a psychiatric evaluation. Since her release, we haven't heard from her directly. Whether this is due to the legal consequences or simply her moving on to other concerns, we're grateful for the respite. Mike and I have made changes in our own lives as well. We moved to a new apartment in a secure building with better safety features. We changed our phone numbers and limited our social media presence. These steps were taken partly due to Rachel's past behavior, but also to create a fresh start for ourselves. The stress of the situation took a toll on our marriage, but we've worked through it together. The marriage counseling helped us develop better communication strategies and process the guilt and anxiety we both experienced. We recently celebrated our 2nd wedding anniversary with a weekend getaway, the first real vacation we've taken since before Brian came into our lives. We've also made progress on our financial goals. Mike found a new job with better pay and less stress. I received a promotion at work. We've saved enough for a down payment on a house and are actively looking in areas that would put us closer to Brian while still maintaining our careers. Throughout this ordeal, we've received mixed reactions from family and friends. Some understood our decision not to take permanent custody of Brian, while others judged us harshly. We've lost contact with a few family members who felt we should have stepped up regardless of our circumstances. These judgments were difficult to bear, especially when we were already questioning ourselves. What I've learned from this experience is that there are rarely perfect solutions to complex family problems. We made the best decision we could with the information and resources we had at the time. Brian is in a loving, stable home with Natalie and Tom. He has consistent routines, appropriate boundaries, and adults who are committed to his well-being. Sometimes I still wonder how things might have been different if we had made other choices. If we had been in a position to keep Brian ourselves. If Rachel had received help sooner. If our family history hadn't been so complicated. But dwelling on these scenarios doesn't change the reality or help anyone move forward. The court has scheduled a final status hearing for next month, which will likely formalize the permanent arrangement with minimal chances for Rachel to regain custody without substantial changes. Our lawyer advised us that our presence isn't required, but Mike and I plan to attend to demonstrate our continued commitment to Brian's welfare. As for our future plans, Mike and I have decided to delay having children for another year or 2. We want to process our experiences fully and establish our new home before taking that step. When we do have children, Brian will be their cousin, and we'll make sure they know and love each other as family. I still think about that Tuesday when Rachel dropped Brian off for what she knew would be the last time. How differently things might have turned out if she had been honest about her intentions or if we had recognized the signs earlier. But focusing on those thoughts only leads to more pain. Instead, I try to look forward to Brian's bright future with Natalie and Tom, to rebuilding our own lives, and to creating a new normal that includes our nephew in a meaningful way. This isn't the happy ending anyone would have chosen, but it's an ending with hope. Brian is safe. Mike and I are healing. And somewhere out there, I hope Rachel finds the help she needs. Thank you to everyone who has followed this journey and offered support and advice along the way. Your perspectives helped us navigate the most difficult decision of our lives. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. I exposed my sister's affair with my husband at our family reunion. A year later, they're having a baby and my parents want me to play happy family. I, 32F, have been married to Alex, 34M, for 5 years. Our story began in college, where we met during a charity event. I was volunteering at a booth for animal rescue, and Alex came by to donate. We struck up a conversation about our shared love for dogs, and things just clicked. After graduation, we started dating seriously, and 3 years later, we tied the knot in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by friends and family. Growing up, my relationship with my older sister Jenna, 35F, was always complicated. We're only 3 years apart, but it often felt like we were from different planets. Jenna was the outgoing, popular one, while I was more introverted and focused on my studies. Our parents, both hardworking middle-class folks, always tried to treat us equally, but Jenna seemed to resent me for some reason. I remember one incident when I was 14 and Jenna was 17. I had just won a regional science fair, and my parents took us out to celebrate. Throughout the dinner, Jenna kept making snide remarks about how being a nerd wouldn't get me anywhere in life. When my parents scolded her, she stormed out of the restaurant. It was supposed to be my special night, but it ended with everyone feeling miserable. This pattern continued throughout our teenage years and into adulthood. When I got into a prestigious university, Jenna suddenly decided she wanted to go to college too, even though she had always said higher education wasn't for her. She applied to the same school but didn't get in, which only seemed to fuel her resentment. When I introduced Alex to my family, Jenna's reaction was strange. She was overly friendly with him, almost flirtatious, which made me uncomfortable. But Alex assured me it was nothing, and I wanted to believe him. After all, despite our differences, Jenna was my sister. I never thought she would betray me in the worst possible way. Last year, I started noticing changes in Alex's behavior. He was always on his phone, working late, and being secretive. At first, I brushed it off. Alex had recently started a new job at a tech startup, and I thought he was just stressed and adjusting to the new workload. But as weeks turned into months, my suspicions grew. I hate to admit it, but I eventually broke down and snooped through his phone one night while he was asleep. What I found shattered my world. There were hundreds of messages between Alex and Jenna, dating back several months. They were clearly having an affair. The messages were explicit and left no room for doubt. I felt sick to my stomach. Not only was my husband cheating on me, but he was doing it with my own sister. I didn't confront them immediately. A part of me hoped it was all a misunderstanding, that there was some logical explanation. But deep down, I knew the truth. I decided to gather more evidence. I installed a hidden camera in our living room and bedroom. I know it's not legal, but I was desperate. Over the next few weeks, I caught them in the act multiple times when I was supposed to be at work. Each time I watched the footage, I felt a piece of my heart die. The two people I should have been able to trust the most in this world had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I thought about the family dinners where Jenna would sit across from me, smiling and asking about my life, all while sleeping with my husband behind my back. I thought about the nights Alex would come home late, claiming he was working, when in reality he had been with my sister. I was devastated and angry. My first instinct was to confront them, to scream and shout and demand answers. But a part of me wanted revenge. I wanted them to feel the same pain and humiliation I was feeling. So, I waited until our annual family reunion, which was scheduled a month later. All our relatives would be there, including our parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. The family reunion had always been a big deal in our family. It was a tradition started by our grandparents decades ago, a way to keep the family close despite distance and busy lives. This year, it was being held at my parents' house, the same house where Jenna and I had grown up. On the day of the reunion, I acted normal. I helped my mom set up the food, laughed at my dad's bad jokes, and even managed to make small talk with Jenna and Alex. My heart was pounding the entire time, knowing what was about to happen. When everyone had gathered in the living room after dinner, I asked for their attention. I said I had a special video to share of Alex and me. My Aunt Sandra, always the romantic, gushed about how sweet it was that we had made a couples video. If only she knew. Instead of a sweet couples video, I played the compilation of Alex and Jenna's encounters on the big screen TV. The room went silent. People gasped. My mom dropped the plate of cookies she was holding. My dad's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. Alex and Jenna tried to run, but my cousins, reacting on instinct, blocked the exit. I calmly explained everything I had discovered, showing the text messages as further proof. I described how long it had been going on, how they had lied to my face for months. The aftermath was chaotic. My parents were in tears. Some relatives were yelling at Alex and Jenna, while others were trying to comfort me. My uncle Bob, who had always been protective of me, had to be held back from punching Alex. Alex begged for forgiveness, saying it was a mistake and that he loved me. He claimed Jenna had seduced him, that he had been weak. Jenna, on the other hand, tried to blame me. She said I neglected Alex, that I was cold and unloving, and that's why he turned to her. Her words stung, but I refused to let them see me cry. I filed for divorce the next day. Most of my family supported me, but my parents were torn. They were angry at Jenna and Alex but also upset that I had exposed everything so publicly. They said I should have handled it privately to avoid embarrassing the family. But I stood my ground. I told them that Alex and Jenna were the ones who should be embarrassed, not me. It's been a month since the incident. Alex moved out, and I haven't spoken to Jenna since. Some family members think I went too far by exposing them at the reunion. They say I could have confronted them privately and spared the family the embarrassment. But I don't regret my actions. I believe they deserve to be exposed for their betrayal. Every day is a struggle. I wake up and for a split second, I forget what happened. Then reality comes crashing down, and the pain feels fresh all over again. But I'm trying to stay strong. I'm focusing on my job, spending time with friends who have been supportive, and trying to rebuild my life. I know the road ahead will be tough. The divorce proceedings will be messy, and family gatherings will be awkward for years to come. But I refuse to let Alex and Jenna's actions define me. I refuse to be a victim. So, Reddit, Ida for exposing my sister's affair with my husband in front of our entire family? Update 1. It's been 3 months since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Your words have been a lifeline during some of my darkest moments. The divorce proceedings are underway, and it's been a roller coaster of emotions. Alex initially tried to contest it, claiming that I violated his privacy by recording him without consent. My lawyer, a tough-as-nails woman named Melissa, advised me that while the recordings might not be admissible in court, the text messages were enough evidence for a fault-based divorce. When Alex realized he had no chance of reconciliation or winning in court, he agreed to an uncontested divorce. But that doesn't mean he's made it easy. He's been trying to manipulate me emotionally, sending long emails about how sorry he is and how much he misses me. One day he's begging for forgiveness, the next he's angry and blaming me for ruining his life. It's exhausting. Jenna, on the other hand, has been relentless in her attempts to paint herself as the victim. She's been spreading lies about me to anyone who will listen. According to her, I was the one who drove Alex away with my cold and unloving behavior, and she was just comforting him. She even tried to convince our parents that I had known about the affair all along and only exposed it for attention. Her behavior has brought back memories of our childhood that I had long forgotten. Like the time when I was 16 and had my first serious boyfriend. Jenna, who was 19 at the time, went out of her way to flirt with him whenever she was around. I confronted her about it, and she laughed it off, saying I was being paranoid. 2 weeks later, I found out she had kissed him at a party. History really does repeat itself. Speaking of our parents, they're still struggling to cope with everything. Mom is devastated and barely leaves the house anymore. She's always been a social butterfly, involved in various community activities. Now, she cancels plans at the last minute and spends most of her time watching old movies in her room. Dad tries to put on a brave face, but I can see how much this has affected him. His hair seems to have gone grayer in the past few months, and the lines on his face have deepened. They've been going to family counseling, trying to understand how things got to this point. Last week, I ran into Alex at a local cafe. It was the first time I'd seen him in person since the family reunion. He looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled like he had slept in them. For a moment, I felt a pang of the old feelings I used to have for him. Then he started talking. He begged me to give him another chance, saying he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He said he missed our life together, our inside jokes, the way I always knew how to calm him down when he was stressed. As he spoke, I could almost see the man I fell in love with. Almost. But then I remembered the footage of him with Jenna, the lies, the betrayal. I told him that he made his choice when he decided to sleep with my sister, and now he has to live with the consequences. The hardest part of all this has been the loneliness. I've lost my husband and my sister in one fell swoop. Even though they betrayed me, there are moments when I miss having them in my life. I miss the easy conversations Alex and I used to have over dinner. I miss calling Jenna to gossip about our favorite TV shows. But then I remember what they did, and the anger comes rushing back. I've started seeing a therapist to help me process everything. Her name is Dr. Chen, and she's been incredibly helpful. It's been good to have someone to talk to who isn't involved in the situation. She's been helping me work through my trust issues and teaching me how to set boundaries. We've been exploring my childhood and my relationship with Jenna, trying to understand the root of our issues. One positive thing that's come out of this mess is that I've reconnected with some old friends. My college roommate, Sarah, reached out after hearing what happened. We hadn't spoken in years, but it was like no time had passed. She's been incredibly supportive, inviting me out and making sure I'm not isolating myself. It's reminded me that family isn't just about blood relations. As for the relatives who thought I went too far with a public exposure, most of them have come around. My Aunt Linda, who initially criticized me, called to apologize. She said she reacted out of shock but now understands why I did what I did. She shared that her own husband had cheated on her years ago, and she wished she had had the courage to stand up for herself the way I did. I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days are better than others. I'm focusing on my career and have thrown myself into a big project at work. We're developing a new software that could revolutionize the way small businesses handle their accounting. It's challenging and exciting, and it helps keep my mind off everything else. I still stand by my decision to expose Alex and Jenna. Yes, it was dramatic and public, but I believe they needed to face the consequences of their actions. The truth would have come out eventually, and at least this way, I was able to control the narrative. I refuse to be ashamed or to let them make me feel like I'm the one who did something wrong. As I navigate this new chapter of my life, I'm trying to focus on the future. I'm rediscovering who I am as an individual, not as Alex's wife or Jenna's sister. It's scary, but also liberating. I'm learning to trust myself again, to believe in my own strength and resilience. Whatever comes next, I know I can handle it. Update 2. It's been 6 months since my last update, and life has taken some unexpected turns. The divorce is finally finalized, and I'm officially a single woman again. It's a bittersweet feeling, relief mixed with sadness for what could have been. I keep thinking about the life Alex and I had planned together, the children we talked about having, the house we wanted to buy. It's strange to think that none of that will happen now, at least not with him. Alex moved out of state for a new job. I heard through mutual friends that he's been struggling to adjust to his new life. Apparently, he's been drinking a lot and has already been warned about his performance at work. Part of me feels a twisted sense of satisfaction knowing he's unhappy, but mostly, I just feel indifferent. He's no longer a part of my life, and I'm okay with that. Jenna, on the other hand, has been causing more drama. She showed up at my workplace last month, making a scene in the lobby. She was crying and screaming about how I had ruined her life, how I had turned the family against her. My coworkers were shocked. I hadn't told many of them about what had happened. Security had to escort her out, and my boss called me into his office afterwards. I ended up having to explain the whole sordid story. Thankfully, he was understanding, but it was humiliating to have my personal life on display like that. I've since filed a restraining order against Jenna. It breaks my heart that it's come to this, but I need to protect myself. The day I went to the courthouse to file the paperwork, I ran into our childhood neighbor, Mrs. Peterson. She asked how Jenna and I were doing, saying she always thought we were such close sisters. I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth, so I just mumbled something about us both being busy with work. It made me think about all the times Jenna and I had played in Mrs. Peterson's yard as kids, how she would bring us cookies and lemonade on hot summer days. How did we go from that to this? Our parents are still caught in the middle of all this. Mom's health has taken a turn for the worse. The stress of everything has exacerbated her heart condition. She was hospitalized last week, and it was touch and go for a while. I spent nights sitting by her hospital bed, holding her hand and remembering all the times she had done the same for me when I was sick as a child. Thankfully, she's stable now, but the doctors have warned her to avoid stress. Dad is trying his best to keep the family together, but it's a losing battle. He's been calling me regularly, trying to convince me to reconcile with Jenna for Mom's sake. I've told him repeatedly that while I'm willing to be civil for family gatherings, I will never trust Jenna again. It's hard to hear the disappointment in his voice, but I have to stand my ground. On a more positive note, I've started dating again. Nothing serious yet, just casual coffee dates. It's been nice to feel attractive and want it again. Last week, I went out with a guy named Tom. We met at a local bookstore. He reached for the same book I was about to grab. We ended up talking for hours about our favorite authors. It was nice to have a conversation that didn't revolve around my past drama. Work has been a great distraction. I got a promotion last month, which has kept me busier than ever. I'm now leading a team on that software project I mentioned in my last update. It's challenging, but I'm enjoying the responsibility. I'm grateful for the distraction and the sense of accomplishment it brings. I've also started volunteering at a local women's shelter. It started as a way to get out of the house and stop wallowing in my own problems, but it's become so much more than that. Helping other women who have been through difficult situations has been incredibly rewarding and has given me a new perspective on my own problems. Last week, I helped a woman about my age move into her own apartment after leaving an abusive relationship. Seeing her smile as she looked around her new place, knowing she was safe, was one of the best feelings I've had in a long time. As for the family reunion incident, it's become something of a cautionary tale in our extended family. I overheard my cousin telling her teenage daughter to be careful who you trust, or you might end up like Alex and Jenna. It's not the legacy I would have chosen, but if it prevents someone else from going through what I did, then maybe some good came out of this mess after all. Update 3, it's been a year since my original post, and it feels like a lifetime ago. So much has changed, and yet some things remain frustratingly the same. The biggest news is that I'm moving. I got a fantastic job offer in another state, and after much consideration, I decided to take it. It's a chance for a fresh start, away from all the painful memories and family drama. The company I'll be working for is developing cutting-edge AI technology, and they want me to lead their software development team. It's an incredible opportunity, both professionally and personally. Packing up my life here has been an emotional process. Every object seems to hold a memory, good or bad. I found an old photo album from my wedding tucked away in a closet. Seeing those happy faces, completely unaware of what the future held, brought tears to my eyes. I ended up donating most of the wedding gifts and mementos. It felt cathartic, like I was finally letting go of that chapter of my life. Speaking of letting go, there's been some major family drama recently. Jenna is pregnant. Yes, you read that right. And yes, it's Alex's. They're not together. Apparently, it happened during one of their weak moments after the divorce. They told the family last month, and it's thrown everyone into chaos again. I found out through a tearful phone call from my mom. She was barely coherent, alternating between excitement about becoming a grandmother and despair over the circumstances. Dad got on the phone and tried to smooth things over, saying that maybe this baby could bring the family back together. I had to bite my tongue to stop myself from screaming. Mom had another health scare when she heard the news. The shock and stress were too much for her heart. She's stable now, but the doctors have warned that she needs to avoid stress. It's ironic, the very thing that's causing her stress is the thing she's most excited about. As for me, I'm still processing this new development. Part of me is angry that they're bringing a child into this mess. Another part feels sorry for the baby, who didn't ask to be born into such a complicated situation. Mostly, I just feel tired of it all. I've decided that for my own mental health, I need to distance myself from this situation. I've told my parents that while I love them, I won't be involved in anything to do with Jenna or Alex's child. It might seem harsh, but I need to prioritize my own healing. I can't be the aunt this child deserves, and it's better to step away now than to half-heartedly try and inevitably disappoint everyone. On a brighter note, I've been seeing someone for a few months now. His name is Mark, and we met at a tech conference. He's kind, funny, and most importantly, honest. He knows about my past and has been incredibly understanding and patient. It's still early days, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future. Mark has been a huge support as I prepare for my move. He's helped me pack, listened to me vent about family drama, and even offered to drive with me to my new city to help me get settled. His kindness and genuine care for me have been a balm to my battered heart. As I pack up my life here and prepare for my move, I can't help but reflect on everything that's happened. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I had lost my husband, my sister, and my sense of trust in one fell swoop. There were days when I could barely get out of bed, when the pain and betrayal felt like a physical weight crushing me. But here I am, a year later, about to start a new job in a new city. I'm in a healthy relationship with a man who respects me. I've rediscovered my passion for my work and found new purpose in volunteering. It hasn't been an easy journey, and I know there will still be tough days ahead. But I'm proud of how far I've come. To everyone who's followed my story and offered support, thank you. Your kind words and advice have meant more than you know. Here's to new beginnings and leaving the past where it belongs, in the past. As I close this chapter of my life, I'm filled with a mix of emotions, hope, anxiety, excitement, and a tinge of sadness. But mostly, I feel strong. Whatever challenges lie ahead, I know I can face them. After all, I've already survived the worst betrayal imaginable. Everything else is just a bump in the road.